Welcome to this explainer. Imagine, just for a second, that you've been tasked with planning the ultimate mega event. We're talking a massive global gathering, absolutely zero budget constraints, and it's going to be attended by the most important people in the known world. How do you even begin to coordinate something on that colossal scale? Well, let's take a look at one of the most spectacular examples in ancient history to find out. So how exactly do you pull off an ancient mega event? Today, we're turning to a genuinely fascinating ancient text, specifically an excerpt from the epic Mahabharata, but we're going to look at it through a very specific lens. We're framing the Rajasuya Parva not just as mythology, but as a vibrant, dynamic masterclass in high-stakes event planning, logistics, and leadership. Because honestly, pulling off an event of this magnitude requires a lot more than just sending out some invitations. It requires a perfect storm of economics, powerful alliances, and absolute pinpoint delegation. Let's kick things off with Section 1. The virtuous golden age. Now, before you can send out a single invite, there's a pretty fundamental prerequisite. You literally cannot throw an epic event without a thriving, secure kingdom. The source text actually goes to really great lengths to show the direct correlation between a leader's character and their kingdom's prosperity. Because King Yudhisthira was a just leader who cherished truth, everything in the kingdom functioned perfectly. We see equitable taxation, which led to booming agriculture and trade. The text even notes that the clouds poured perfect rain, no droughts, no floods, no plagues or premature deaths. It even goes so far as to claim that robbers and cheats completely stopped telling lies. It's wild, right? But this environment of total peace and virtuous rule is the absolute fertile ground required to even dream up a massive celebration. And this brilliantly illustrates the financial results of that golden age. Yudhisthira's treasury was filled with so much wealth, obtained virtuously, mind you, that the text says it could not be emptied even in 100 years. It was only after looking at this unimaginably full treasury that Yudhisthira and his advisors realized, okay, the time has come. They finally had the massive capital required to celebrate the great Rajasuya sacrifice. The budget was, for all intents and purposes, limitless. Moving right along to Section 2, Krishna brings the treasure. An event goes from being just a grand idea to a legendary execution when you manage to secure that ultimate VIP endorsement. We just established that King Yudhisthira had a treasury that couldn't be spent in a century. But then, the text describes the arrival of Krishna, referred to here as Hari or Keshava, the omniscient soul of the Vedas. And Krishna doesn't just show up to RSVP. He arrives surrounded by a mighty host, with his chariot wheels literally rattling the atmosphere, bringing what the text calls an inexhaustible ocean of gems. So the crucial takeaway here is that Krishna's arrival instantly takes an already unbelievable scale of wealth and just multiplies it, greatly enhancing the sorrows of their enemies while gladdening the capital like the sun lighting up a dark room. But here's what's so fascinating. Notice how Yudhisthira handles this moment of supreme power. He doesn't boast at all. He simply says, "O Krishna, it is for thee that the whole earth is under my sway." He completely acknowledges that his vast wealth is entirely due to divine grace. This highlights a masterful leadership quality, true humility. Yudhisthira defers to Krishna, asking him to either perform the sacrifice himself or grant Yudhisthira the permission to do so. He knows that this divine blessing is absolutely required to cleanse his sins and make the sacrifice a true success. And Krishna's response? It's honestly equally surprising. Instead of just taking over the whole show, Krishna officially endorses the event, telling Yudhisthira that he deserves the imperial dignity. Krishna says, "Employ me also in some office for that purpose." Think about that. The most powerful being in the room, the source of limitless wealth, is literally asking to be put to work as a humble servant to obey the king's commands. With the budget doubled and the ultimate VIP enthusiastically on board, the green light is officially given. Which brings us to Section 3, Planning the Grand Sacrifice. All right, so with a limitless budget and divine endorsement secured, the complex logistical nightmare of ancient event planning kicks into high gear. The text is incredibly dense right here, but it reveals a remarkably clean, three-step process of delegation and supply chain management. King Yudhisthira doesn't micromanage. Step 1, he appoints Sahadeva, a top minister, to collect all the necessary materials, food, and items of agreeable taste and smell. Step 2, a figure named Dwaipayana is brought in to handle the human resources side of things, specifically appointing the highly specialized priests. And Step 3, the physical construction begins, with builders and artificers erecting the massive venues. It's just a flawless division of labor.
I actually want to pause on step 2 for a moment because this is basically like assembling an ancient, highly specialized Ocean's 11 style crew of ritual experts. The text gives us their specific titles. The son of Satyavati becomes the Brahma of the sacrifice. Suzuman is the chanter of the Vedic hymns. Yajnavalkya becomes the Adyaryu, and Pila and Dhamya become the hot trees. These aren't just random attendees. They are exalted Brahmanas, described as being like the Vedas themselves in embodied forms. They were brought in to execute incredibly specific technical roles for the sacrifice.
And of course, we can't forget the venue itself. The text uses these really vivid sensory details to describe the physical infrastructure built by these ancient craftsmen. They erected numerous edifices that were spacious and well-perfumed, like unto the temples of the gods. Just try to imagine the sheer scale of construction required to house all those incoming guests, all of it built from scratch, smelling of rich perfumes and matching the architectural grandeur of divine temples. The stage is now perfectly set.
Let's dive into Section 4, the ultimate royal gathering.
Now we move straight into the execution phase, focusing on the sheer scale of who actually attended. King Yudhisthira commands Sahadeva to send out speedy messengers, and just look at who they invite. Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and respectable Sudras. This wasn't just a closed-door gala for the royal elite, not at all. This highlights a radical inclusivity. The invitation extended across the entire societal breadth, bringing together landowners, merchants, priests, and workers alike. It was a true society-wide event that drew in thousands of kings, relatives, friends, and even strangers from various countries. Once these thousands of guests arrived, the hospitality they received was just staggering. Craftsmen had erected separate habitations for the guests and all their attendants. But it wasn't just a place to crash. They were meticulously provided with food, fresh clothes, and beautifully, the text notes they were given the fruits and flowers of every season. To keep everyone entertained, they spent their time conversing on diverse topics and watching spectacular performances by actors and dancers. If you want to capture the whole vibe of this event, it really boils down to 2 words: give and eat. The text says these were the words heard there incessantly and every single day. Imagine the absolute sensory overload. You have the clamor of high-souled guests cheerfully talking, eating, and rejoicing without a single intermission. It was just a continuous, joyful noise of consumption and generosity echoing through those perfumed pavilions day in and day out. And to really drive home the unbelievable scale of that generosity, we have to talk in thousands. King Yudhisthira didn't just host these people, he literally showered them with gifts. The text specifically states that unto each of the Brahmanas, the king gave thousands of kine, which are cows, along with beds, gold coins, and damsels. The philanthropy here was operating on a scale that honestly almost defies modern comprehension. Finally, Section 5, the seeds of epic conflict. So the text tells us that this incredible gathering mirrored the heaven of Sakra himself, a total peak moment of unity and wealth. But as with all great epics, this ultimate summit sets a really dangerous stage. I want to leave you with this final provocative question. Right at the height of this magnificent event, King Yudhisthira dispatches his brother Nakula to Hastinapura. His mission? To bring Bhishma, Drona, Dhritarashtra, and most importantly, his Kuru cousins to the sacrifice. Now, if you know anything about the larger story of these families, you know that bringing this specific group of rivals into a space of such unimaginable wealth and unchallenged power is literally like lighting a match in a room full of fireworks. How will this ultimate gathering of unity inadvertently spark the most devastating epic conflict in their history? Well, that is absolutely something you'll want to explore further. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this provided a clear, fun look into the anatomy of an ancient mega event.